Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Big Show. I'm Alexander Lee, the lead news writer here at GamesBeat, and it is my great pleasure to be speaking with Maya Rogers, the CEO of the Tetris Company. Maya is a bona fide gaming industry legend who comes from a family of industry legends. Her father, Hank Rogers, played a pivotal role in securing the rights to Tetris and bringing it to global audiences. Maya represents the second generation of leadership behind one of the most, if not the most, iconic games ever made. And under her stewardship, Tetris has blossomed. Since becoming CEO in 2019, Maya has helped modernize Tetris as a global brand and IP, overseeing its expansion into new game formats, licensing and partnerships, and even a feature film that came out in 2023. Maya, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Alex.
So Maya, we're here to talk about you and your background in games. And I just went over some of the greatest hits, but let's take it back even further, all the way to the beginning. What was your earliest memory of playing games? And what did that experience mean to you at the time?
Well, I grew up in the 80s in Japan, so really it was kind of the epitome of, when the video game industry started. And it was for me and everybody else around me, right? Everybody played video games. And the fact that my parents were entrepreneurs in the industry made it even cooler. So I think I was exposed to video games very early on, and my family, we all grew up playing video games. Um, so Tetris was something that I grew up with, not just because my parents were in the video game industry, but because, that was really the beginning of the Nintendo era, and the entire industry kind of blossomed then.
I mean, I gotta ask, was Tetris your first game that you ever played?
Oh no. Oh my gosh. What is the first game? Well, so talking about a little bit of history. So my father, Hank Rogers, was responsible for bringing the RPG genre to Japan. So he created the first game called Black Onyx. And at the time, nobody knew what RPGs were. And so he programmed the game himself and published it, and there's no sales. And after that, he went to every magazine publisher trying to convince them and showing them how this game is played. And the game became number one the following 2 years. So probably one of my earlier games was the Black Onyx RPG. But yeah, all of the Nintendo games too, right? Like the Marios and the Zeldas and the Bombermans. I mean, there's so many games that I played in childhood that still kind of brings me to a happy place, but lots of games.
So at what point did you realize this is something that can be my career too? I mean, you have a great role model, but not everyone goes into the same field as their parents.
Of
So
course not. Yeah. I mean, I think that was one of the things too. My parents never really pushed us into joining whatever family business there was. Who knows if it was going to be around when we were adults? But they did show me, what it was to be entrepreneurial and have their own business and kind of pave the way. So I think that spirit really was instilled upon our family growing up. And, it wasn't until, so after college, I started working at American Honda because my mom was like, you got to go get experience, go work for a big company. And so I did that. And at American Honda, I worked on physical cars. And then I had an opportunity to go work at Sony PlayStation. And so I went from working on physical cars to virtual cars. I was very lucky that one of my first games that I got to work on was Gran Turismo. And so when I got my first job at Sony PlayStation, I just felt like I was at home, that this was where I was supposed to be. And what was amazing about that also is that it felt to me like, everybody in the industry, in the video game industry, is in it because they have some passion for video games. And maybe I didn't feel that way so much in the sort of corporate automotive world. And I was like, why wouldn't you want to do something that really speaks to your heart? And so I think when I still remember it was, Santa Monica office, Santa Monica Studios is where I worked, and walking into my first desk, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I was supposed to be here. And I haven't looked back.
amazing. So let's talk about the transition over to Tetris. I mean, you cut your teeth, first in automotive and then working on PlayStation. Can you tell me how the opportunity to make the jump over to Tetris arose and how you felt about that initially?
Yeah. I mean, so obviously my parents were still in the industry, and it was And when my father, Hank, turned 52, he had a major heart attack and almost died. And that was when he had sold the licensing rights to the mobile gaming business
Mhm.
to GamDat. So back in probably in the early 2000s. And this was a pivotal moment because it was the first time that an IP like Tetris had made its way into the mobile business. So he was, again, a pioneer of bringing the mobile industry to what kind of, starting it to what it is today. And when he had his heart attack, it was a wake up call for me. Like, I was like, you know what? I should learn from my father while he's still in business. Like, who knows? We almost literally lost him.
Yeah.
And so when that had happened, I asked my dad, hey, can I come work for you? And it was kind of like, well, I don't know exactly remember what he had said, but I think it was, he was probably thinking like, I thought you'd never ask. And so I probably moved and joined the business 16, 17 years ago now.
Your dad was like, "Man, I should have had a heart attack a few years
No,
earlier if this is what happened." No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't be
no,
so
no.
glib about it, but I'm very glad that something, potentially tragic like that resulted in something so positive and exciting for you and your family. So, let's talk about your first kind of foray into Tetris. So you've been playing Tetris your whole life. You're an experienced operator in the gaming industry. What did you know you wanted to change about Tetris when you came in? Or perhaps phrased in a different way, what were the big misunderstandings about Tetris that you wanted to kind of address or rectify, as you stepped into this role?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, obviously, when I first joined the business, and um, it was also like understanding the past and why things are the way that it is today. When my father ran the business, he made sure that the game was evergreen, that it's available on all platforms. And so that is one element that we've definitely kept close to heart, because I truly believe that wherever games are played, people look for Tetris. Is one of those games that, um, you know, everyone played, right? And so, like, something like that, keeping what was already there and making sure that we honor the past, but also making sure that, you know, what I think now is taking Tetris beyond video games.
Mhm.
We're consumers. We don't just look at one thing and, end our relationship with whatever we love there, right? The fandom expands beyond whatever that one thing is. And so in video games, it's not just video games anymore, it's everywhere else. So I think for me, it was really important that we expand Tetris beyond video games. We've done, obviously, you mentioned the movie in 2023, 3 years ago,
Mhm.
and we've expanded it into merchandising and experiences, and everywhere where we feel like people that love our brand want to touch, we want to make sure that we're there.
I mean, there's some awesome crossovers you guys are doing. I just wrote an article this past week about a crossover between Tetris and Space Invaders that you guys
Um,
helped launch, which is super cool. I mean, those are two classic games that I played ever since I was a kid, and just to see them merged together is amazing. And so, yeah, I've personally been very excited to see the ways that Tetris has kind of expanded and evolved over the years. And I think you've given a pretty comprehensive answer to this question in bits and pieces. But just to put it to you straight,
mhm.
what are the most significant ways in which the evolution of the Tetris Company or the mission, sorry, of the Tetris Company has evolved over the past years? This multi-channel aspect, is this something that you would say is currently your primary focus, or are there other initiatives that you're spending most of your day-to-day time on right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously video games will be our primary focus always. So how can we expand that and make sure that the games are available? And if you've seen the last 10 years, we've had some amazing games that's come out. Including Tetris Effect, um, Puyo Puyo Tetris, Tetris 99 on the Switch.
Yep.
We just came out with Tetris Time Warp. Um, with it's now available on Netflix. So for us, video games will always remain number one. But I think just as important is, again, making sure that we reach our consumer base. And what's amazing about Tetris for me, it's every person that I encounter, they all have a Tetris story. Of course, if they've played Tetris, and most people have. And the story of that is always of joy. It's always like, "Oh my gosh, I remember when," and I just truly believe that, like, Alexei Alexei Pajitnov, the creator of Tetris, made the perfect game. It's something that really speaks to our desire to wanna create order out of chaos, and so with that in mind, I think it's just as important to, again, take Tetris into everyday life and where can we, take it. So one of the things that we're focusing on now is mental wellness, for example. There's a researcher by the name of Dr. Emily Holmes, and she has done research, independent research, initially with Oxford University over the last 20 years and using Tetris, and she's now proven that Tetris can help alleviate PTSD by playing Tetris. And so how good is that a video game, we get such a bad rep and like it's destroying people's minds and what have you, but now we actually know that it can help people. And in the stories of people that I've spoken to too, people are like, I used to play Tetris or I played Tetris before my school exam because it actually helps me organize my thoughts. Or somebody who has, maybe ADHD and they actually are playing Tetris as they're in class because it kind of helps them again, so the
Yeah.
entire like mental wellness industry and there's like Tetris for good. Tetris brings you joy, and then like we can do something to make good for the world. That is something that we're very passionate about, and so that's one of the pillars that we want to like explore more. Um, and then the last couple of years, we've done a lot of collabs with different brands that has been really exciting, right? So we did one with Minecraft last year, and again, like Minecraft is a younger audience, and so how can we bring the Tetris experience into Minecraft? I'm kind of excited about that one because my kids just started playing Minecraft. They're a little young still, but I'm just waiting for the moment where I can introduce them the Tetris pack. It's like, hey guys, mommy did this. The other collab that we did last year that was super exciting, and you probably saw something about it, was the Red Bull Tetris collaboration. We did Red Bull cans. I happen to have the can in front of me, so I'm going to show it
Oh,
to
let's
you.
see it. Woo! Oh, that is
So,
awesome.
Red Bull had wanted to do an esports competition, and then obviously the opportunity to do the cans came up. So we did, I think, 160 million cans around the world. And what was exciting about this collab is that we created a esports title where people could compete on the Red Bull Tetris game, and 60 different countries participated. And Red Bull flew in all of those winners from 60 different countries into Dubai, and we did the finals and semifinals. And the finalists got to play a drone Tetris game using like 2,800 drones, the biggest really outside display of a video game using drones real time
Wow.
within the Dubai frame, which is this big architectural thing that is like 400 feet tall. You can see it from across the city. So that was exciting. Things like that where, again, taking, such a beloved brand and collaborating with other brands, including Space Invaders, right? There's so many opportunities that we have that we're just scratching the surface. And Tetris is one of those brands that people love, and it's family friendly, and it doesn't require language and all that good stuff. And so we're very excited to do more collabs like that.
Maya, I mean, everything that you're saying is really exciting, but particularly the mental health and mental wellness aspect, I just want to say is actually really meaningful to me because a few years ago I got in a really bad car accident and I was struggling with the trauma and with
Yeah.
some of the thoughts after. And I reached out to my uncle who had been through something similar recently, and his number one piece of advice was play Tetris right now.
Oh
I
my
mean,
gosh.
and I did. I
There's my
played
uncle.
Tetris for days after, and it really helped. I mean, who knows? Maybe I was doing other stuff too, but it made a huge difference, and so that really resonates with me personally.
That's
Um,
amazing.
so
He
yeah,
should listen
thank
to
you
the
for that.
podcast, your uncle.
I'll send him a link when it comes
Yes,
out. He'll be
please.
very pleased. Um, so I want to bring it to this kind of generational topic that you brought up with regard to Minecraft.
Yeah.
Um, and by the way, I like the idea that the next CEO of the Tetris company is playing Minecraft right now, but I digress. Um, Because you're right. I mean, this is a really great way to reach a new generation of kids who did not necessarily grow up playing original Tetris on their Game Boy the way that we did. So nostalgia is a tremendous force in gaming right now. We're seeing a lot of older IPs and older brands come back with a lot of success, especially because gamers who grew up with them and now have the spending money to spend on them. So I'm not discounting the power of nostalgia here, but I did want to ask how you balance honoring the history and the nostalgia that goes into Tetris with the need to push it forward to new audiences. Is there any risk of over relying on nostalgia as a business strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, we really haven't relied a lot on nostalgia, even though that's where people, it's always what Tetris did you play growing up? For me, it was the Game Boy. And for you, probably maybe it was the Nintendo DS or, depends on who you ask and what platforms and what game and consoles people are playing at the time. So I think for us, people want to connect Tetris as like a retro brand, but we always kind of for a long time like shied away from it because we feel like it's an evergreen game. We've always iterated, we've always come up with so many different new variations, and the core gameplay still remains the same. But if you look at how like let's look at movies, for example, right?
Mhm.
The initial movies were black and white, no sound. To today, it's immersive and it's a whole nother thing. But the core of it is the entertainment, and it's a platform as a movie itself remains the same. So I feel the same way with Tetris, is that if you look at the original East Electronica 60 game that Alexi made, no sound, no drop speed, no single, double, triple Tetris. And we've evolved the game over time while still keeping the core of what Tetris is. And so with that, I think we've never really relied heavily on nostalgia, but people love retro. And so I think finally we're starting to embrace it more. And we really want to provide more for that audience that crave that retro nostalgia. So I think there's always room to do both. And again, that brings me to another point. There's a whole set of players that are playing the NES game, right? There's a group called CTWC, the Classic Tetris World Championship guys, and they started playing, and they have this whole movement now. They've been doing this for, I don't know, maybe 15 years, where now it's a worldwide competition. And who's playing the original NES games? There are 13, 14, 15-year-old kids who've now figured out a way to play the game, right? So instead of smashing buttons, now they're rolling the controller, right? So they're wearing they wear these gloves, and then they sit the controller on top of their hand, and they just kind of roll their hand.
I've heard of this. It's crazy.
It's crazy. And so they've now taken the original NES Tetris game into a whole another thing. And a few years ago, there was a kid named Blue Scooty who at the time was 13 years old, and he had crashed the game, which was impossible before. We just came out with a documentary last year with Legendary Films, which debuted at Tribeca Film Festival. So that's a whole nother retro movement that like we'd love to support. And so I think there's so much room to support all of it. And I don't believe for us that, leaning too much into nostalgia is something that is keeping us behind.
Yeah, I was reading up the other day on some of the crazy thing, the physical techniques. People are putting their hands on the controller and then making their muscles tremor to press the button faster and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Who would have seen this coming
Who would have
back in
thought, right?
the first days
Yeah.
of Tetris? So, Maya, you've been the CEO of Tetris since 2019, and you becoming CEO is a really cool story in a number of ways. In one way, it's because it's sort of a homecoming. It's embracing this family lineage that you grew up in. Um, but what's also cool about it is that it made you one of the few women in a top level prominent leadership position in the industry. And I, I'm sorry. I mean, this is maybe a little of a depressing a topic, but that was 2019, and it's 2026 now, and there still are just not many more women
Mhm.
in prominent positions like yours. And so, I just wanted to ask, you know, how has the fact that you're one of the most visible women in the space shaped your approach to leadership? And do you feel a responsibility to change what leadership in this industry looks like through your role?
I mean, absolutely. We all have a responsibility to change what leadership looks like everywhere, right? It's not just video games. I think it's like what in 2023, I think 24% of sort of the C-suite are women, and Nintendo just hired Devin Pritchard to be president. Woohoo! I mean, that's a milestone, but it's not enough. And I think it's not just up to the women because it also requires the men and everyone to kind of help. Um, if you look at the number of women gamers, we're like half the population, and maybe we're playing different types of games, but every time when we encounter another, development partner, licensing partner who's making a Tetris game, there's so few women. I'm like, if you're trying to design games that half your audience are women, we need to have representation. So I think obviously on the development side, we need to have more women, but on the leadership side, and I've been in the game industry long enough to know that there are lots of women behind the scenes who are making it happen. They're just maybe not in the public roles. And so I absolutely do feel the responsibility. I think for me, as a female role model, I want to empower other women and other girls to go after their dreams. That's one gift that I feel like I received from both my parents. I'm the oldest of four kids. I'm, obviously number one oldest. Not obviously, but I'm the oldest of four kids. And, my dad never looked at me like a girl who couldn't achieve something. Like he knew I was capable and he believed in me and I believed in myself. And that's what it took. And so I think for girls, we lead differently, we work differently, and that's okay because that's what our strengths are. So I feel it's my charge to really go out there and inspire other women and girls to go after dreams. Look, what's happening with AI, it's taking away all of our jobs. What's going to remain? And it's always been too, the management positions is what is going to help you kind of boost your career, right? And so if you're in a technical position and if you're not learning how to manage people, then maybe that's where you're going to stay. But if you think about management, it's about leading people, it's about working people, and that's the skill that everybody could use. And so if you are looking to move up in the industry and in your careers, you really got to think about how can I make that skill to my advantage to become more successful if that's what you choose. But yeah, it's we have a long way to go. A long way to go.
Yeah, well said all around. Thank you. And I mean, to your point, the lack of diversity at the upper levels is certainly one structural challenge facing the gaming industry right now. I, I want to end this episode by maybe expanding this just to a kind of big picture discussion of the industry in general and where you see it going, including and beyond that topic. So maybe to turn it towards, more of a business perspective or cultural perspective, what else do you see as the biggest structural challenges that are facing gaming companies today?
It's always interesting because I think now video games industry is in the maturity level, right? It's in its mature state. And so we're starting to see a lot of big titles. Maybe they've come out with second or third iterations that haven't been as successful. And
Hmm.
we're starting to see also massive layoffs in the industry. It's really a telling time. And I think that, again, as the video game industry has matured, it's really changing how we play games, what kind of games are coming out. Um, I'm not such an expert on like what is happening with the industry per se, but if you look at what's happened with the music industry, right? We used to buy albums, we used to buy CDs, and there's still people that buy records, right? But that's sort of the retro side of it. But that has shifted, right? And so now artists are having to make money by performing and doing other experiences. I think something very similar with video games is that it's really has become about the experience, and it's not just about the one product that you buy, right? And so maybe with Tetris, we've sort of kind of thought about that and expanded, the offering that we
Hmm.
have. But again, it's all about the fandom. It's all about connecting with your players who love your game and listen to them and what do they want and how are they playing it. I mean, it's just amazing to me. I mentioned Minecraft earlier. You know, it's the whole young generation. They're playing games not like how we used to play. And so I think we just have to make sure that we're adapting to, what's out there. It's hard because
Yeah,
again, we're at this space where so much is changing, um, but it will continue to evolve, and who knows what the future holds. But I can tell you this, that if you make a great game, and if that's the game, it doesn't have to be a crazy complicated game, right? Tetris is simple to play, but difficult, if not impossible to master. And that's the magic, right? Is finding something, it doesn't have to be super crazy elaborate, but something that brings people together, that brings joy. Find that next thing, and that's what's gonna sustain your business.
love that. All right, Maya, I'll leave you with one more question, and we'll turn it back again towards history. If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice entering the games industry, what would it be, knowing what you know now?
I think especially for women too, being the underdog, being the minority. I mean, I think the one advice I would give to people is just be yourself. You know, you can't try to be something that you're not, and if you bring it, people are gonna notice. And so I don't know that I would say anything different to my younger self because I probably was the same person 20 years ago. Um, but yeah, I think everybody goes through hurdles, and know that that's the process and that's okay. You're not going to win every time. So at the end of the day, the only person that you can lean back on is you. So be yourself. And can I say this? Don't be an asshole.
You can definitely say this.
Okay. Because I can tell you this much, everybody remembers who the assholes were. And guess what? They don't want to work with you, you know? So it's all about relationships. It's all about people. It's all about work, life, all the same, right? You're living life with one purpose, to have a good life. So treat other people the way you want to be treated, and you shouldn't have a problem.
Enough said. Maya Rogers, everyone, CEO of the Tetris Company. Thank you again. Really, really appreciate the time.
Thank you so much.